because of what he says under his breath.
Tom,
How you doing?
good, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Beautiful day.
I know. So nice out.
Sure was.
Oh, thanks.
Now you're back.
Time.
Yep.
Let's roll. Let's roll. Good evening. It is 6 o'clock, and I now call the Dexter Township Special Meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Third item on the agenda will be roll call. Treasurer Metz.
Here?
Trustee Scott.
Here.
Trustee Sanders.
She's late.
She is late
She's running late.
with an excused lateness. Trustee Sakinga.
Present.
And Trustee Nolte.
Here.
Thank you.
Yourself.
Myself, Clerk Stambolali, is present. And Supervisor Radkovich is a non-excused absence. The fourth item on the agenda will be for the first call for public comment. Seeing none. The fifth item on the agenda will be the approval of the Board of Trustees special meeting today, Sunday, May 7th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve as presented.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the Board of Trustees meeting agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. All righty.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
If you're facilitating the meeting and we don't have a recording secretary, is somebody taking minutes for us today?
Yes. Thank you for that comment. Alrighty, so now on to the reason why we're here. New business, interview candidates for Dexter Township Supervisor position. Our thought process was to ask each of the four candidates to have an opportunity to sit at the desk and the mic provided in front of us, to have the opportunity to ask a few questions and introduce themselves. And we would like to start with Ms. Regina Hamlet.
Are we giving him like 5 minutes to do a self-introduction? It's up to you.
So if you'd like to take 5 minutes to give a self-introduction, that would be fantastic, and then we can proceed with questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Regina Hamlet. I moved to Dexter Township in 2015 with my parents and my family, my kids. We moved to this area from Ann Arbor. I personally have moved around a lot during my life due to just whatever circumstances have arisen. I've lived in Michigan, Ohio, California, Oklahoma, Florida, and back to Michigan because it is my favorite state. We chose this area because of we got drawn to it when we were in Ann Arbor. We were renting, looking for a home to buy, and we kept coming to Dexter, to the downtown area, the cute little village area, and just participating in all the Dexter Days and Apple Days and all the festivals, and it was a lot of fun for us. And then we started exploring this area, Pinckney State Rec area, which is in Dexter Township, and different things. We like hiking and being at the lake a lot. So it was a lot of fun for our family to get in this area, and we fell in love with it before we moved here. And then we found our property that we currently have up for sale. And thankfully, we were able to put a bid on it right away and got it. And my parents also live on the same property with us. They wanted to retire, so we are a multi-generational family, and we love it. We love being in this area. It's just amazing. We love the people, the small town feel, And even at the time, I think I was working at Dexter Wellness Center. And so I know Karen from Dexter Wellness Center. But I fell in love with the people, the town, the area, and this is where our forever home is now because I'm tired of moving around. And I wanted a place where my kids could come back to once they grew up. I have 4 daughters and now a stepson as well. And they can come home and that's their home and they have some roots somewhere. So it's very nice to be in this area and be involved in the community and have the neighbors we have and the people around us and just all the relationships we've built has been amazing. So we love it. I know that's probably not 5 minutes, but
You're good.
No, that's fantastic.
You're good. Can I just make it? She said I know her. I'm a pickleball player at Dexter Wellness, and she ran Kids in Motion, and that's the only way. Like, she would come out and yell, "Get off the court, it's Kids in Motion time." So, yeah, that's pretty much how I know Regina.
Now it's time. Because those kids had to get out and move.
Yeah.
They were tired of sitting around. So,
But it's the small town, right?
yes, exactly.
fantastic.
Exactly.
Okay, so I was hoping that I could open this up along with the assistance of the Board of Trustees to ask you some questions.
Sure. Yes.
Perfect.
Do you want me to go ahead?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, Regina. First question, what prompted you to apply for the township supervisor appointment?
All right. I turned 50 this year, so I need glasses now.
I do
apparently.
too. I'm struggling right now.
So I have a desire to help my community and work with others to create a safe, secure, and welcoming environment for those who currently live here, along with potential Dexter Township residents. So that's why I applied.
Okay.
Would you like to be next, Trustee Scott?
Sure. Do we have to go in order that's on the list here? Does
Do
it
we
matter?
have to? We don't have to ask just these questions. We can ask others, can we?
Absolutely, but the
Okay.
4 questions were,
Oh, the top 4?
absolutely.
Okay.
And then we were thinking,
Oh, the highlighted 4.
exactly.
I'll go in order first, and then
Okay.
we'll come back later.
Sweet.
What is your leadership style, and how do you use that to collaborate with a team?
So throughout my time in leadership classes and also in my work that I've done in the past, being a leader or a quote-unquote boss, I learned about servant leadership. I graduated from Epic School of Leadership in Kalamazoo. I continued to learn about this concept through online training on the Zing Train online through Zingerman's. I attended in-person workshops hosted by Zingerman's often when I was a supervisor at Ann Arbor Public Schools. And I also read the books that went along with their business strategies and their models. So I lead through servant leadership. My motto is, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I build relationships with people, and I genuinely want to get to know someone as a fellow human. I believe in strengthening the team through relationship building as we learn about each other's strengths and weaknesses. And we can always improve and learn together. And I have kept my relationships active with several of past employees, whether it was at Dexter Wellness Center. Some of my employees were like 16 and 17 years old, and now they're married and have their own kids, and it's just really fun to watch them grow and become the people that they wanted to become. And also with Ann Arbor Public Schools, I was one of 3 admin that was over 96 employees, and I still have very active relationships with many of those employees because of the relationships that we built during that time. So I do believe in servant leadership and caring about people above anything else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guess I'm up.
Okay.
What do you see as the 3 most important issues impacting our township over the next decade?
Yes. So I was looking at it, and I've heard, over the years, people talk about things about Dexter, so this is a mixture of my observation along with what other people have mentioned to me. The local government should be made up of normal citizens from various walks of life. We should be representative of the community that we are serving. Local government is the first place. Wait, this is not the right question, is it? Which one did you ask?
Question 6.
Thank you. I thought we were going in order. Okay, question 6.
Because of the time limitations, we're only going to be asking 4 of the
Okay,
questions.
I gotcha.
So
Right.
And
Yes,
then
no
open
problem.
dialogue for a few minutes.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so on to this one. In hearing what others have to say about Dexter and in my own observations made over the last few years, I see potential issues in 3 areas. One is overcrowding. This affects traffic patterns, business attendance, tourism destination decisions, and more. The second one being overdevelopment, which could lead to rural land and country type, which could lead to less rural land and country type living. I'd love to help serve on the Farmland and Open Space Preservation Board or Committee if I'm allowed to, anyway, or in any capacity that I can help with that. And 3, transparency of our own township board with the citizens. It is imperative that we foster a community of open dialogue with each other, meaning the township and the citizens, to allow for both parties to participate and be heard and share their valuable insight. I think all of these can be accomplished through that avenue of talking to residents, getting to know them more, them understanding what ordinances is. I answered this in another question, but I did not really understand what local government was about until I got involved in it personally, and I had to research, and then I became more aware, and then I did work at Putnam Township for a while, and that helped me to really learn and be immersed in the whole township culture, which was new to me, but I really enjoyed it, and since then I've been researching and learning on my own, so I think fostering that dialogue with citizens who might not understand that. We can offer education opportunities for them and just casual community engagement type things where they can ask questions. Well, what do you guys really do as a township board? And then we can explain to them, and then we can ask them what are their concerns and their things. So that's how I see it becoming less of an issue, and we're able to work with the community together. So.
Can I ask a quick follow-up to my question? What did you do at Putnam?
I worked for Pat Carney
Okay.
in the treasurer's office.
Okay.
So I was kind of like a temporary assistant to the deputy treasurer, and then also a receptionist for a minute, just until they found some new employees.
Gotcha.
And I know Tom, he's sitting back there.
Yeah. Who doesn't know Tom? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're looking at question 11.
Thank you.
And I think there's a mistake. I think what we mean is local governments are charged with balancing individual property rights against the overall public good. And for that, we create governmental regulations that accomplish that balance.
Sure.
And that includes zoning and other ordinances that are designed to protect the health and safety and welfare of the community as a whole.
Yes.
Do you think Dexter Township's current zoning ordinances generally strike a good balance? And describe it, and give us an example that supports your position.
Okay. Like I said before, I had to research a lot of these ordinances. They were new to me until recently, the last few years. And it's been eye-opening to me, but it's a good thing to have ordinances. I do think most ordinances are fair and regulated properly here in Dexter Township. I do see that quite a few are older and may need to be updated due to population growth or a changing landscape with development. And my reference to that is ordinance number 5, which is the anti-noise and nuisance ordinance. It says it was last updated in 1982. It might be a good idea to look at some older ordinances and either update them, or if they don't need updating, that's fine, but we could just put a revised or examined date on it. So the residents are aware. We're still looking at these. We're not just leaving it for 30 years and not paying attention kind of thing. So my personal experience with Dexter Township zoning and other ordinances has prompted me to be more aware of and to study the local government and its policies and procedures. I was less aware of local government as I was state and federal government. This has helped me to be more astute in my own practices for personal and business reasons. I think some residents of the townships aren't aware, like I was, of said ordinances and procedures of township government. This is why I would like to see more opportunities for the public to engage with the township board in casual settings, to educate, promote, and build relationships that can lead to a better understanding between the people who voted for the board and the public servants on the board.
Thank you.
Yes.
if we want to open it up for, that was the 15-minute timer.
Or did you have questions for us?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do you have any questions for the Board of Trustees?
I have a few like logistical questions, so you don't need to take up time for that right now, but would like to know how long is the process before you decide who is going to be the supervisor?
Absolutely. So we are looking to make our determination on our upcoming regularly scheduled Board of Trustees meeting, which will be
Is that the one on the 16th?
on the 16th.
Okay, all right,
So not too long from now.
yeah.
But did you have any questions for us?
No, I think that was it.
Any other questions from the board?
Are there any other questions from the board that would like to ask?
Yeah.
Trustee Scott?
That's okay.
Trust-
Sorry, I didn't know Flora was going first. Don't she? If appointed to fulfill the vacancy, do you intend to run in 2024?
Yes, I would like to run. I think consistency is a good thing, and someone who comes in here and learns everything that needs to be learned for this job, it'd be nice for them to continue on.
Thank you.
Do you have any experience with budget? So I would say the two primary responsibilities of the board, of the supervisor, well, there's managing the assessment process, but then
Sure.
there's managing the budget and managing the board.
Sure.
Can you speak a little bit to your experience? And I'm particularly interested in budget management
Yeah.
experience, so I would love to hear if you have experience managing, in particular, a public sector budget, not private sector budget.
Sure. When at Putnam Township, I was in the treasurer's office, so I got to help with that. So that was interesting because it was different than I've done before. However, at Ann Arbor Public Schools, I was an administrator, and one of my job description was I was the admin in charge of the 18 different site budgets that we had. We had 18 elementaries under us, and it was my job to manage all 18 budgets and keep them current and active and positive. So yes, I have. That was about 5 years of experience there.
So was that just monitoring? Did you actually prepare and propose a budget, or was it just?
I didn't have to promote it or present it to a board, but I did have to, public school, I had to get it approved through the board, and we had to, I set the budget, kept track of everything, the spending and what we made, because every site made money, but then we spent money, so it was a pretty all-inclusive budget.
And do you have experience with board management or meeting facilitation?
I'm actually just newly this year, but I have experience now. I'm on the Michigan Agritourism Board, and we meet once a month in Lansing, and so yes, I have that experience.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, thank you.
And our next candidate would be Jeffrey Marine. Is that correct? Hello.
Hi, it's nice to meet my township board.
Nice to meet you. Okay, we're going to continue with the same process. So
5-minute opening and then 15-minute Q&A.
there'll be a 5-minute opening to introduce yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't quite know how this would all take place, so I didn't actually practice my elevator speech, but I think I can probably come up with one. I've given it about 100 times, so though not typically in front of a township board. I'm a scientist. I've got a graduate degree, biology. I've worked in clinical, preclinical, basic research for years, and since then, for the last 15, almost 20 years, I've worked in clinical research. What that means is I work on developing drugs. More recently, with most of my career with the pharmaceutical industry, I work on developing drugs for diseases. that alone has given me sufficient skills to work in a township. But I'll talk a little bit about that. So I've done work with the NIH as a researcher. I did that for years. I came to Ann Arbor in 1992 to work for Park Davis. If you all remember Park Davis, that was before they were purchased by Pfizer. I worked for Park Davis for about 8 years before Pfizer bought us. About the time Pfizer bought us, a little after, I actually moved out of the lab from doing my research into a project management position, where I worked to help manage scientific teams, move drugs forward. After about 4 years, Pfizer decided they didn't want any of us anymore, and Ann Arbor facility basically was gone. At that point in time, I left Ann Arbor, I moved out east. Now, during my time here in Ann Arbor, though, from 92 till 2007, not only did I work at Pfizer, Park Davis Pfizer, but I became really quite involved in the community. So in 2000, I was elected to the Township Board of Trustees in Pittsfield Township. I sat and I performed a four-year term there. Prior to that, I had been becoming more and more involved in environmental and land use and open space issues involved in Washington County. I worked on the original open space preservation ballot issue back in the late 90s. I actually got my first project management experience. My first project management experience was actually running an event called the Tour de Sprawl. I don't know if you are all too young to remember this, but I'm not. And it was in the late 90s. The Ecology Center, the Washington Land Trust, Sierra Club all got together, and I think it was 98, 99, I actually chaired the Tour de Sprawl. And I got my first project management experience there by having to both get a budget, get people together. I was even setting up radio and radio interviews and newspaper interviews and sending out, during my lunch hour, I was sending out press releases, so forth. Anyway, so I chaired that. The event went great. Eventually that made me realize I really liked project management, so I went into project management. Late 2000s, I moved out east after Pfizer dismissed us all. I took my first job as a clinical researcher, where I started really beginning to develop drugs. And for the last 15 years, I've worked on developing new drugs for cancer indications. I moved back here during COVID, about 2020, when I decided to lead the industry and go as an independent consultant, which is what I am currently. I take on contracts. I work for the pharmaceutical industry. I've helped them to develop early-stage drugs. I work out of my house, and I moved back to Dexter Township. We had a choice of where we wanted to move, anywhere in the country, and we chose to come back to this area. We like this area. We love this area. I'm an avid mountain biker. I mountain bike. I'm an avid hockey player. I play with all the guys that I used to play with, and my wife and I both like getting on our bike and riding and hiking. And aside from that, I found Ann Arbor was a very easy place to become involved with my community. A lot of smart people, a lot of dedicated people, a lot of committed people, in the good way, and so we are here. So when I saw this opening for this opportunity, I had been contemplating how I wanted to get back into working with the community, volunteering, doing some other work, maybe, considering, coming up to the township, seeing how things went here, trying to get on a committee. When I saw this opportunity, I thought, why not? I might as well apply. I believe with my skills, my background, my time on the township board, my ability to project manage, not only that, but to project manage teams of scientists, that I would probably be good at this. So I'm sure that was my...
Yeah, that was your 5 minutes.
My
I'm
hook.
sorry. It didn't mean to be that loud.
That's okay. Anyway, that was probably more than you needed to hear, so thank you.
No, thank you. That was very informative. Okay, so we'd like to take in the same process for about 15 minutes for questions, the same questions with, starting with number 1.
Okay. So Jeff, what prompted you to apply for the township supervisor position? But I think that we've already, yeah, I think we already answered that. So should we just move on to the
If
second
you'd like
one
to
and
ask me another
then?
question instead, you're welcome to.
Yeah,
Or I
okay.
could expound on that. I could expound on anything.
Let's just go to the second one. I think you did a really good job with the first question. So what is your leadership style and how do you use that to collaborate with the team?
So I think as a leader, the number one priority is to be informed. As a scientist, my number one priority is also to be informed. I've done tons of research. An example is a year ago, I worked for a company. They asked me to develop, and I'm not going to try to get too technical, but they said, can you help us to develop this early stage drug for DNA, that inhibits DNA repair mechanisms to put it into acute leukemia patients. It's never been in patients before, and I said, sure. I know nothing about DNA repair mechanisms, nor nothing about acute leukemia. However, I was a quick study. I learned it. That's only the first step, though, of being a leader, is learning what you have to do. The second is listening. So the next is, I want to be informed about all sides of an argument. Someone once asked me, and I don't think they meant it kindly, but they said, do you always think you're right? And I said, well, of course I do. I wouldn't tell you something if I thought it was wrong. And then they said to me, well, do you ever change your mind? And I said, absolutely. Put the facts, put the information in front of me to show me that I'm wrong. The last thing in the world I want to be is wrong. So if you show me that there's a different way to think, that there's a different answer, a different outcome, a different solution, absolutely. So I want to know what all those viewpoints are. So I think that's important, is to listen to all sides of the argument, to listen to all people who have something to say. You never know what's going to come out of something. You never know why somebody's thinking something. At the end of the day, I still hope I'm right. But regardless, I hope we make the right decision. And so the final piece of this is when I am on a team, as I've been herding scientists for years, which I can tell you it's not easy, when I'm on a team, I think often people have a hard time making decisions. And you can lay out all the information that you want, and you can put it all out there, and at the end of the day, they still have trouble making a decision. And sometimes that's okay, because sometimes you need to think. You know, some people are more introverts, they need more time. Extroverts are pushing, right? But at the end of the day, you do need to make a decision, and sometimes teams, sometimes groups have real trouble doing it. And so I think the final piece of this is a leader needs to push to a decision, right? Not my decision, the best decision, and in this case, the best decision for the interest of the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of the best interest of the community, what do you see as the three most important issues impacting Dexter Township now and over the next 10 years?
And I brought that specifically in case you were going to ask this question, because I knew I would not remember my answer.
No problem.
So, let's see, the three most important issues. Right. I'm going to just name them off, and then I can expound on it a little bit for you. So, growth and development, infrastructure, and public safety. Those are my three issues, right? Now, growth and development, we're a rural community. I know some people who've probably lived here for the last 20 years think it's really gotten big and crowded and busy and all that, but I just moved here. I was living in New Jersey. It's not crowded. I mean, when I have to sit at a stoplight, going into Ann Arbor to wait for a car in front of me, it's not crowded, all right? But I did work on these issues when I was in Pittsfield Township, and I worked on them because Pittsfield Township was becoming more and more crowded at the time. There was a lot of interest in development, and the thing in Pittsfield Township that brought me out was a development, they called it a walkable community, right? It was supposed to basically be patterned after something like Celebration in Florida or one of these communities, and they wanted to put it right in the middle of the township, in the middle of the wetlands, in the middle of the forest, and then when they actually came through with the plans, they couldn't achieve what they said they were going to do. It wasn't any longer really a walkable community with everything there. It sounded beautiful. It was a wonderful community built in the right place, but it wasn't the right place. And that's what actually initially, not initially, but one of the things that got me to run for office eventually. So growth and development is really essential. It's going to happen. You can't stop it. And not only you can't stop it, there are people here who need it to happen, right? There's shops in town. There's farmers who have their whole life savings built up in selling their land. There's reasons that growth is going to occur, not to mention, I can't be happier to have moved out here, and I'm sure somebody else next year wants to come out and move out here into Dexter Township just as well as I did, right? And they should be able to. But growth and development has to be smart, it has to be reasoned, it has to be rational, it has to be planned, right? You can't just, in Pittsfield Township, there's a beautiful community, the golf course there on Stonebridge. And Stonebridge is a really nice community, really expensive homes, they built it. And about 10 years after it was built, on a floodplain, all of a sudden they started having a 100-year flood every year. And this is when I was in office there, right? And then they wanted to build on the floodplain right across the street from it as well. The problem being, development has to be done right. If you take your 100-year floodplain and it starts to flood every year, you did something wrong, right? It wasn't thought, it wasn't rational, it wasn't reasoned. So, growth and development is important. I think I'm probably taking too long on these answers, because I was going to talk about infrastructure as well.
Yeah, you have 8 minutes, and we have, what, 2 more questions, so
One more question.
All right, I
One
can
more.
expound, do you want me to continue, or?
it's,
So,
Sure.
Continue.
yeah.
All right, so infrastructure is really important. I'll make this one quick, I'm sorry. So infrastructure is really important because I already had to put a whole house generator in my house. We moved in, we immediately found that we were losing electricity daily. My wife broke her toe one night when it went out because she smacked into something. We got a whole house generator. I shouldn't have to spend all that kind of money to have a generator in my house in the year 2023 because there's no electricity coming to us, and my internet goes out constantly. This isn't the fault of the township, but this is something that we need to think about. We need to update our infrastructure. Very clearly have to update our infrastructure here, not only for internet and for cable, but for everything. And we're in the year 2023, and we shouldn't have 1950 utilities and infrastructure. Public safety. The role of the government is to keep the people safe. I could stop right there. Right? That's our role. I don't know as much about the safety, the public safety in this township as I'd like, but I do know that public safety is essential, and all the things I've been talking about all impact public safety. So we need to be thoughtful, we need to do things the right way, we need to be logical and rational, and we also need to make sure that what we do is in the best interest of our community.
Well, thank you. And I'm the one that's up here that doesn't have internet, by the way.
Good, I would love to be part of that. Especially
would
working
love
from
that.
home. I keep
Later
losing,
this
I have to go to the library to use to do my work. I'm sorry.
Castleton, do you
Two
live-
college-age students, and one of them that was still in high school during COVID. It was a very interesting
can
time, to say
empathize.
the least. I believe we have one more question? Or was there
Yeah.
2, or?
Yeah, so this is question 11 again. So local governments are charged with balancing individual property rights with the public good, including zoning and other ordinances that are designed to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community as a whole. And of course, we create government regulations to that end, and part of that is the zoning ordinance. And so do you think that our current zoning ordinances generally strike a good balance? And can you give an example, a supporting example?
Thanks for your question. So, I don't know if all our ordinances strike that balance. I haven't reviewed all the ordinances. As the woman before me said, a lot of them are really old, and we need to review all of our ordinances. I was astounded to read ordinances from the 80s and 70s, and I think even the 60s and 50s, but that's okay. Some ordinances are just going to be infinitum there anyway, and it doesn't matter. But I think we need to take a look at those ordinances, but we also need to update some of the ordinances for sure. There's no question, because technology is changing. I was just talking about that. As technology changes, as the growth changes, as things here in the township change, yes, we need to review our ordinances. But again, I can't really tell you if it meets that balance, because I just don't know enough yet. Like I said, I learned enough about DNA repair mechanisms and acute leukemia in a short period of time to develop that. I think I can figure out a little bit about our ordinances as well. Not to dismiss and downplay it. I just, that's my nature. I'm a scientist. I learn and I can figure it out. But Most ordinances in the township anyway are more administrative in nature. They're to help the township run, to help people do what they need to do. And so, in general, I'm guessing I've not had a problem in the 2.5 years I've been here. I love being here. We've never had an issue. Anything we never needed from the township was fine. Here's an example, though, where I do know that you do a great job of balancing the interest of the individual rights with the community. You have a PDR, Purchase of Developmental Rights in force. I was actually very instrumental in the original PDRs that came up in Washington County, in Washtenaw County, I lived in too many places, Washtenaw County, and I was actually very involved in the original PDRs that were written and the first one that was passed in Pittsfield Township. All right, PDRs are great. PDRs, as a matter of fact, on my tour de sprawl, I was talking about this. I was talking about it with farmers. PDRs are great because they allow a farmer or somebody that has agricultural land, if they so choose, to want to not disrupt the community, but they still want to sell, they still want to get their money, they can do that. You don't interrupt their individual rights. You don't impact their individual rights. At the same time, trying to maintain the character of the community. And this is a rural community. So we don't need a lot of commercial development out here. What we need is we need to maintain the character of the community the way that the community wants it maintained. Without telling that farmer, sorry, you're stuck with your land and you're never going to retire. So I could go on more and more, but I think I probably made my point. So with that, and I know I've been droning on a little bit, so with that in mind, I think that's the one really great example here that I can give you. I actually, again, I think it's a great example because it's something I worked hard on, over 20 years ago.
Thank you. Alrighty, so do any of the Board of Trustees have any questions for Jeffrey?
I do, of course. Just to talk a little bit about your budget, your public sector budget experience, and any experience you've had managing a board.
All right. So I have never managed a public sector budget. The only budget I ever did in the public sector outside of work was when I worked on the tour de sprawl and my personal budget at home, which I can say we're doing okay. Right? We don't have any outstanding bills that we can't pay. But that aside, I did do the work with the tour de sprawl. I had to get money, I had to budget it, I had to pay people that were vendors that were working for us and so forth. That was my first foray. In my career, I have to be careful with budgets. We run clinical trials. Clinical trials cost millions of dollars. And we have to know if we're spending the right money, the vendors, we have to treat patients, we have to get drugged to clinical sites, we have to work with world-famous investigators that want their money as well, but they want to help develop new drugs. So I have a lot of experience working with that. The other side of the coin, as a scientist, I often say I don't make the budget, I spend it. But as a manager, I'm perfectly capable of looking at a budget, understanding the budget, and that actually, you'll see in my written response, is one of the things I thought was a very important issue with the township, is to make sure that our budget is in order and can address the essential items that we need to address. As far as managing a board, I've managed scientists. Right. I was a trustee on the township board in Pittsfield Township, so I didn't manage that board. But I did manage a few of the committees I was on. Again, I mentioned about how my leadership style is. I believe in listening and working together and collaborating, and being collaborative, but also in making sure that we get the job done. Did that get?
That's great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I just lost my question. Jeez. Lonnie's old age. Lonnie.
Same question that I asked earlier. So if you're appointed to fill this position, do you intend to run in 2024?
So I have to say, I did not apply for this position with the intent of running again. And I didn't actually think about that until I saw the question there. And I thought, oh yeah, it's an elected position that's going to come up in a couple of years. Do I want to run? The answer is I've decided to put my hat in for the presidential nomination in 2024, so I won't be able to. I'm sorry. I'm not ready for president, not yet. But,
This is just step, this is the first step.
and this could be the
Today's
last.
supervisor,
So the answer is, I don't know. I would just have to see how things go. I don't know if I'm going to like this. I don't know if I'm going to have fun. I don't know if this is going to be something I want to do. I may want to just quit and go mountain bike and play hockey the rest of my life, so.
Well-spoken as a pickleball player. Well-spoken.
And I do want to take, I am planning to take up pickleball.
Go to Dexter Wellness.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
The time's up.
And that was
Oh,
going to be
now we're over
my
time.
last question. Do you have any questions for us?
The only question I have, I noticed that one of the questions in the questionnaire was about, do you have time to serve on committees and other boards? And obviously, that's part of it. And I served on many when I was a township trustee and as a community activist before that. But I mean, I guess I'm trying to get a handle, and I think this is something that if I were to come on, I would probably figure out pretty quick, but a handle on how much time, what kind of boards, how far does that go? I've served on the Huron River Watershed Council as a representative to Pittsfield Township. I served with the Ecology Center and the Washington Land Trust. I didn't really serve, but I went to meetings, I worked with them. Can you give me any indication of what kind of extra work this is?
There are several, and there are a couple appointments that are open now. There is the WAVE Board. There is
I'm sorry, what was that?
the WAVE Board, the...
It all depends on how many committees you get on, really.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So we do have a couple of
it's a
appointments that are open,
Mm-hmm.
that are available, but there's a variety of...
It could go from 1 to 2 extra nights
Yeah.
a month.
Okay.
For board for
Most-
other,
There
To
are
be on
probably 10 to 15 boards in total, and each of us serves on 1 or 2,
Yeah.
to sort of spread the work out over the trustees.
Yeah, and that makes sense from my prior experience.
Yeah.
And,
And I do believe that there are some specific, like there's a supervisor, the supervisors committee that meets, right?
Yeah.
So there are some that are specific to the
Specific to
role
supervisor,
as well.
all the local interaction.
The supervisor has been involved in fire and board and public
Yes.
safety
Yeah.
in particular.
thank you, and again, all things I wouldn't know, not having been a supervisor, but thank you. That's very helpful.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and it's a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to meet
Thank
all
you.
of you. And
Thank you.
if you don't bring me on, you may see me anyway.
We hope
Great.
so.
Fantastic.
We hope so.
Alrighty, so our next candidate will be Ms. Janice Miller.
Hey, Janice, make sure your mic is on.
The green light is on.
Just teasing you.
Hello, board.
All right, Janice, I'm sure you've been paying
She
attention.
yells at us about that. Okay,
We'll start with 5 minutes for opening up to introduce yourself to us in the community.
Okay. I'm Janice Miller. When we moved out here in the 70s, there wasn't as much residential as there is today. As the realtor was driving us out, I looked around and I said, this is where I want to live. The trees, the fields, everything. My background is as an Air Force brat, living on bases and in towns. So this was new to me. This rural character was really new, and I really adapted to it right away. I loved it. And I've stayed ever since. When I came out here, I was a classroom teacher. I taught down at Milan High School. I have both a bachelor's and a master's degree in education. And preemptive answer to your question, yes, I have worked with budgets. I was a vocational teacher, so we had Title 11 budgets to work with the federal government. So at that high level, they scrutinize those very carefully. So I've been out here since the 1970s, and I've been involved in the township for the last 16 years, intimately involved with the township for the last 16 years, and I don't plan on going anywhere. I'm ready for your questions.
Okay, so we'll take the next 15 minutes for the Board of Trustees to ask questions.
All right. So, Ms. Janice Miller, what prompted you to apply for the township supervisor appointment?
As a longtime resident of this community and intimately involved for the last 16 years, I care about its residents and quality of life we live out here. I've been involved in local politics through administering elections. I was on the Public Safety Advisory Committee, which resulted in our outdoor warning system and our fire substation. The Public Safety Advisory Committee did all of the legwork and made the recommendation to the Board of Trustees. I'm also well into planning and zoning, and I've had unparalleled access to the workings of the local government and understand the role of a supervisor and the strong leadership associated with that role.
Fantastic. Would you like to ask? Oh,
Can I ask a follow-up question to that question? It's
sure.
something you said, because I don't want to lose it. So Dexter Township at one time had a public safety committee.
A Public Safety Advisory Committee.
When did that disappear?
That disappeared after we
After the fire station?
recommended to the board the fire station,
So your mission was to basically come up with...
public
that.
safety.
Okay. Didn't know we had that at one time. Thank you. Thanks, Janice.
And what is your leadership style, and how do you use that to collaborate with a team?
I adhere to a democratic style of leadership, fostering team engagement, participation, and transparency. This is the balanced approach with a strong alliance on procedure and the process. Team collaboration executed through open forum, open dialogue, and decisions that follow that procedure and process.
Thank you.
Can you speak a little bit to your supervisory style as well? So I love your answer for the board management, but the supervisor is also going to be supervising the staff. Would you give the same answer for staff supervision?
Certainly, certainly, you've got to work as a team.
Oh, me?
absolutely.
Sorry. Okay, Janice, what are the three most important issues, in your opinion, with Dexter Township?
Management of development by protecting open space and protecting our natural resources, which are the numerous lakes that we have in the township and our groundwater. Second is land preservation to maintain our rural character, and we have launched the Farmland and Open Space Land Preservation Board, which is excellent in that aspect. So we're moving forward on there. The local roads, as increased development and populations, we see more wear and tear on our roads. This concern is ongoing for the foreseeable future, but we are addressing that through our local roads committee.
Excellent.
So you say we're like addressing some of your major issues already.
Yes, you are, and we need to work together on that.
Absolutely. We have a small success here, guys.
Would anyone like to ask the last question?
Yes, I will. Since I asked it before, this is question 11. Local governments are charged with balancing individual property rights with the overall public good, including zoning and other ordinances that are designed to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community as a whole. Do you think Dexter Township's current ordinances generally strike a good balance, and describe one example for supporting your position?
Yes. Dexter Township has a zoning ordinance that was adopted in 2020, so it's only 3 years old. The Zoning Board of Appeals has seen the excellence of the new zoning ordinance that was adopted by the board. We are also undergoing a revision of our master plan. And once that master plan is completed, part of the agreement with our consultant is another review of our zoning ordinance to make sure the documents are aligned. One example that I would refer to is the open space communities. There aren't very many townships that have this. Open space communities preserve open space while managing development. This aspect of our zoning ordinance is consistent with land preservation principles and in line with the residents' desire to manage the development.
Thank you. Alrighty, so do any of the Board of Trustees have any questions for Janice?
If appointed, are you planning to run in 2024?
Right now, it's my intention. This is something I was considering previously when Diane announced her resignation.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You've never run. How come you haven't run in the last
Yeah.
16 years? How come you're not a trustee, Janice?
I've been too busy volunteering.
Fair enough. Well, being a trustee is kind of like volunteering, to tell you the truth.
Okay,
Do you have questions for us, Janice?
I don't.
You
But
already
thank you.
know so much.
You know what we do.
Yes, I know too much.
Sure.
I just want to make a comment.
Sure.
And I'm formulating it. I'm so grateful that you're applying for this job. And I am so, I just have a lot of deep respect for you in the way that you've handled the very complicated job of keeping everybody's minutes. And it's really so, I'm kind of at a loss for words, but just having you step up and say that you were thinking about running for supervisor and really showcasing your capacities beyond what you have already done for the board and for the community is just heartwarming to me.
Thank you,
And I have
Laura.
really deep respect, no matter what happens here, because there's a lot of really good competition, right?
Oh,
But
there is.
No matter what happens here, I just have deep respect for you.
Thank you, Laura.
Does the audience know that she's our recording secretary and attends every
Forever.
meeting? And okay. Didn't know if they knew. Well, there's 7 minutes left if anybody has a question, or you have questions of us, or...
I guess I kind of want to ask a question, but it's a little bit, you know, there's been a lot of stress with our board. There's been a lot of conflict. I mean, even though I think healthy conflict in a lot of ways, because a lot has gotten done, and I don't think that good government is easy.
Clean.
It's not always clean and easy. It can be messy, but you've been right there. Like you said, you're intimately involved, you know? I guess I'm curious as to how will you manage that? You've kind of been on the sidelines as the person who's keeping the record, even though you do keep us on track with procedures and all sorts of things. How will you handle that, either similarly or different than as a supervisor?
so I think she might be answering.
The conflict that occurs.
It's okay.
I think it's my temperament that deals with conflict and not let it get to me. You all have to know that I go through the meetings a second time after you guys leave the building. And there's a lot of stress going through that. But I look at it as progressing. We're doing fine things for our residents. And I think the stress wouldn't get under my skin, because it doesn't bother me doing the minutes.
I just have a comment. I mean, quite honestly, the more that I think about it and hearing your answers, you probably already in your mind for the last 2 years formulated how you would do things differently to make this meetings run more smoothly.
You
I
hit-
mean,
You hit the nail on the head.
yeah. I mean, quite honestly, I mean, you've been an observer of us all along. And all the former boards too, so you have all the comparisons, so.
Right.
I just wanted to make that comment because, I mean, that's.
Yeah, not only that, but the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Planning Commission, and the Land Preservation Board, too.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you, Janice, I know that for sure.
We do.
Thank you.
Being a staple with elections, so knowing the election process is fantastic
Yeah,
as well.
talk about
and
managing
serving.
stress.
Yeah.
The elections are a big one. I managed 3 precincts, and that was from prepping all of the materials that they need during the day, to training, to then supervising the 3 precincts throughout the day of the election.
It's a lot.
It is. It is. And you can ask any of the election workers, I didn't scream at any of them. No.
Wow, you deserve
That's me patting you on the back.
And personally, I'm grateful for you with the election. So definitely a big undertaking, which really makes you so well-rounded.
Thank you.
had no questions for us, so thank you.
Thanks,
very
Janice.
much,
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you, Janice.
Thanks for your time for interviewing all of us tonight. I mean, giving up your
Absolutely.
Sunday is really,
It was a good idea.
really special. Yeah. Not to mention it's not raining.
And the windows are open.
Yeah,
I had to do that because it was too hot in here.
It's
we
beautiful.
hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Karen Sekenga?
Feels a little strange to be on this side. This is the side I've usually been on historically in the past, so this is new for me.
So already, same process, if you wouldn't mind taking 5 minutes as an introduction?
Yeah, so I'm Karen Sickinga. I am a trustee in Dexter Township. I am a local government professional. I guess I have a master's degree in public administration with a specialization in budget, and local government has been my passion probably for my whole career. And budgets, as you guys know. So you've heard me talk a lot about budgets, but I started out my career as a budget and policy analyst at a firm that specialized in local governments in California and kind of on the West Coast. And my job there was to really analyze those budgets and also determine the fiscal impact of proposed policies. And I also did operations reviews, so went in and helped local government entities operate more efficiently and effectively. And then I moved to Michigan, back to Michigan. I'm a Michigan native. I'm an Ann Arbor. I'm a Washtenaw County native, and I was born in Mott Hospital and raised here. Had a little bit of a side trip to San Francisco to get my master's degree, stayed there, got married there, but then came back to raise my kids here. And my parents have been living on the Huron River for 35 years, and I now live on the Huron River in Dexter Township. So I'm thrilled to be living here in Dexter Township and here in serving actually in an elected role for the first time. So here in Ann Arbor, I worked for a firm for a while that specialized in state level consulting, and we did a lot of electric public utilities commission work, so I know that's of interest to you, Lonnie. And then I joined the University of Michigan as the budget and finance manager for the College of LS&A, which had like 60 departments, each of which had a budget that was larger. The overall budget size for the college was about $500 million. So I was managing $500 million in budget and finance. But then I wanted to go to a position that felt more mission-driven, I guess, and so I went to the Botanical Gardens to become the administrator of the Botanic Garden. So I'd like to say that I have experience both as a consultant, but also actually running a department, and I think I understand the day-to-day challenges of supervising staff, preserving morale, and really working with passionate people who are working towards a common mission, how to kind of wrangle those cats and get everybody on board for the mission of the organization. We had a lot of problems initially. I think I've talked to all of you guys about this. And I did such a good job cleaning up the botanical gardens, and then got tapped by the provost to go to the Bentley Historical Library. So I feel like I do have the experience of working as an administrator in a department to help bring us around to being high functioning. And then since 2018, I've been gone back out on my own. My kids graduated from high school and are gone, and so I could go back to the traveling life, and I have been back as a local government consultant working on operational issues, finance and budget. So that's kind of mine. And I've been a trustee for the last 2.5 years, tapped by you guys who are looking for a complete slate, so.
Alrighty, fantastic. So would the Board of Trustees, we'll take about 15 minutes to go ahead and ask you some questions.
Okay.
Okay, so, do you want me to ask what prompted you to be?
You know what?
I mean, this just seems kind of silly, just because, I mean, obviously, it's our supervisor's resignation and prompts you, right? I mean, and also, was there interest?
Well, I do
prior?
want to answer I think, go ahead and ask the question, because
Okay.
I'd like to answer it.
Okay, please.
And I kind of want to start by saying, part of the reason I raised my hand is because I do believe that it's best for the supervisor to be somebody who was chosen by the electorate. And I know we've had back and forth as a board on that. But I mean, Janice has fantastic experience and lots of institutional knowledge, but that was the reason why I voted yes on that original policy proposal that we had before we went to this process. I did appreciate, Maris, the conversation that you and I had, where you said you'd like to sort of be able to demonstrate for the public that whoever we select for the supervisor is qualified for that role. But I did feel that it was important to have somebody who was selected by the electorate. I also think that serving on the role, and like I said, I've been in, Janice is not exactly her position, but I have been an advisor to boards for many, many years. And I do think it's different. I have learned so much being on the board, being an elected official, I think is different from being an advisor. And I think that by having one of the Board of Trustees in the leadership role, we can preserve that consistency. I do think that when you look at the statutory duties of the supervisor, my qualifications are very strong in that area. So, working with boards, working with budgets, and the assessment function, I did serve on the planning board initially, and so I went through the planning training. I was a member of the planning commission, and I am quite familiar with the planning ordinance. So I probably don't equal Janice on that, but I think I do have those qualifications for the supervisor. So that's why I thought that I would be a good choice of the 4 trustees, or you two. I didn't think you two were probably interested in shifting from one executive role to another, and then from the 4 trustees, I thought my qualifications were good.
Thank you.
I think you already talked a little bit about this in your opening, but just to hear it more directly, what is your leadership style, and how do you use that to collaborate with the team?
Well, so I am you guys probably know this already about me, but I am very interested in getting lots of feedback and lots of data. So I will talk to everybody. I'm extremely collaborative, and I like to hear every voice before I make a recommendation. I also like to find out what others are doing, benchmark studies. I like to look at data before I come to a recommendation. I believe that communication is probably the top most important thing that a leader can do, and I do think that, even as we were talking about before the meeting today, I think some of the stresses and tensions we've experienced could be alleviated with improved communications, better preparation for the board meetings,
Narratives,
what?
better narratives.
Yeah, better narratives, more information, but also, I had the experience, I took my staff to do a dragon boat event at Gallup Park one time from the Botanical Gardens, and we all got into the boat. It was like 20 members of the staff or something. We all got into the boat, and we were all rowing the oars, and we were kind of literally going around in circles. I mean, we were not going straight forward. And the coach jumped on in the helm of the dragon boat, and he started saying, okay, pull, and then giving little bits of advice about, you pull a little hard, you're pulling harder than this person, and that's causing us to turn to the left, things. And to me, that became a real metaphor to me for what really good leadership is. It's looking at the team, helping them see the direction that we're going, managing to that purpose and that direction, and then coaching and guiding on how to move in that direction. And communication is really the key to it. The other thing I would say is I did work on a trail project connecting Parker Mill to the Botanic Garden that had been part of a countywide transportation plan for, I think, 30 years. But there were so many stakeholders involved that it could never get approved. So it was the University of Michigan, it was the county parks, it was city parks, it was Ann Arbor Township, Superior Township, multiple neighbors or organizations, donors, and about 10 university departments that all had veto power over the trail project. And so it was a massive undertaking to understand the requirements of each of those decision makers and make sure that the proposal that was put forward met the requirements of each decision maker. And that trail got built. It took me 5 years, but it got built, and that was after 30 years of efforts. It was fully funded in 2000, and despite the full funding, the trail could not move forward. So I mentioned that example just to say I am a really good communicator, and I'm really good at understanding everybody's strengths and requirements, and then managing to those strengths and requirements. I don't believe in supplementing weaknesses. I believe in understanding what people are good at and really making use of it, helping uplift those strengths that people have and pointing people in a direction where they can use those strengths to help us accomplish the purpose of the organization. And I am very purpose-driven. So like that coach in the dragon boat, I will always be talking about the strategic plan, our mission, our core responsibilities, our secondary responsibilities, and our tertiary responsibilities. And we'll be saying, okay, what decisions do we need to take that contribute to that purpose, moving forward in that direction. And then I will also say, once a decision is made, and this board is the chief executive of the organization, so we, as the executive team, our job is to execute the decisions of the overall board. Once the board makes a decision, then we as the executives, we will be implementing that decision as though it were our own, even if sometimes we don't agree. And I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you. Very informative.
So Karen, what do you think are the three most important issues?
I feel like Regina, I just think you were awesome to go first. And I feel like I'm going to be copying everybody else, but my answers were pretty similar. I mean, I am a big environmentalist, and so I do think that we're going to be experiencing weather emergencies, problems with we have many natural areas here that are very special to me and important for the ecosystem and the community. So I think, I want to look at my notes here for a minute, but, so I think we're going to potentially experience some of those issues with electricity, where we may have wastewater issues, we may have stormwater issues, we may have drinking water issues. I think growth and development is also going to be pressing. I'm working on a project right now with the City of Ann Arbor's water treatment plan, and we're trying to forecast out population trends for the next 50 years. And we are assuming that population is going to grow in this area because of climate change. This will be a desirable region for climate change. So I think we need to be prepared for that, and a thoughtful master plan, I think, is part of that. And I think infrastructure is part of that too. So that's where we get roads, electricity, basic utilities.
Excellent.
Do you want to speak to the ordinance question?
Yeah, I'll speak to the ordinance question. So like I said, I was on the planning commission. I feel like I became pretty familiar with the ordinance. I am an environmentalist. I put it right out there. So I'm supportive of all the zoning ordinances that I think support good environmental stewardship, and that includes the dense development. I know the Delatsky property, I was very proud of how we handled that. I'm happy that we approved that and it went through. No one likes development, but I do like that it has the houses. That's an expression of our current master plan with the houses occupying smaller lots and then natural areas on part of the property. We may be able, we're undergoing a new master plan right now, so we may be able to strengthen some of the components of the zoning ordinance to ensure that the natural areas that are preserved are higher quality. I love our PDR. I'm so proud of you guys for doing that. I think this board is awesome. We've accomplished so much. I would like, as you know, I would like to see an emphasis on natural area stewardship in the ordinance, again, because I'm an environmentalist. So I love our PDR. I think anything like our sewer ordinance that requires that new developments jump onto the sewer if they can, that helps the environment. I support that. So there's a lot in it that I think is good, but I am interested in seeing what the findings are for the master plan and seeing what is proposed. I assume that that we're going to see some innovation because it's been a while since we did a master plan, and there's a lot of new thinking about environmental stewardship and how to move that forward.
Thanks.
Thank you, absolutely. Alrighty, so do the Board of Trustees have any questions for Karen?
Go ahead, Lonnie.
If you're appointed, are you intending to run in 2024?
Yes, with the caveat that I love the benchmark that you did, Michelle, that showed the hours and pay of the surrounding supervisors. That's, manna for me. I love that kind of thing. I'm very interested to get to learn why Diane's hours are so much more than the supervisors in the surrounding areas reported. If it is a 12 to 16 to 20 hour a week position, as it seems to be in the surrounding communities, then I'm all for it. If it's 35 hours a week, as Diane is saying, we'll have to see. I'm pretty good I'm a pretty efficient worker, and I'm pretty good at bringing out the best in staff, and I liked a lot of the things that Regina said about staff stewardship, and I think I have great relationships with past staff. I'm hopeful that we can kind of work together on a team, to make a reasonable workload for the executives and everybody on the staff.
Thank you.
That's a little bit equivocal. But I don't want to work 35 hours a week for $40,000 for.
Thank you.
Alrighty, do you have any questions for us?
I don't. I'm a little bit nervous, if you guys can hear. It's very nerve-wracking to sit on this side of the table, and I don't know if the other candidates felt the same way, but I feel like
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
They're nodding.
I can
You can't
barely
see
see
them.
it.
but
Yeah,
they're nodding.
I had great answers to
going
all these
like this.
questions, but all my answers kind of flew out of my mind. So. Yeah, go ahead.
Karen, I also want to make a comment, which is that I feel really grateful that you were willing and able to step up and put your hat in for this. And I have found your participation on the board invaluable. I think that your budget experience has been critically needed, and that you have really helped us to, especially, I know I've come in with certain strengths, but also a lot of needs in terms of learning And I feel like I've learned a whole lot from you. And I have deep respect for you, too, and all of you, what you have to offer. And I think you would make a great supervisor, no matter what happens here. It's looking like there's a number of people that might make great supervisors. But I just want you to know that I really thank you for stepping up and putting and knowing that this has been, like I said, it's been a challenging experience, right? And regardless of the emotionally challenging aspects of it, you're willing to say, I'll come up and step up to the helm here. And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have questions, but I kind of have questions of all 4 candidates. So I was wondering if we could move a table and put 4 people and just ask, could we? Can we? Can we switch it up a bit? Are you guys
Yeah.
open to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I may have to take a bathroom break, though.
These seats are more comfortable, but with it being real warm this morning, the leather is warm.
Does that mean I get to start?
I think so.
I guess my first question is, and I think it's something as a board that we've been a little delinquent on, and not only for Dexter Township's board, but for all our ancillary boards, whether it's the sewer or public safety or any of them. I don't think we have gone after grants very well. Well, let's say this. We haven't gone after grants. We went for one, which we didn't get, by the way. But I want to know if anybody has any grant writing experience.
I have so many ideas about this.
We didn't even talk about this, so.
This is my folder for grants, and it's full of all my grant stuff back here, so.
Okay.
I don't have an extreme amount of experience, but we do have a lavender farm, and I have gotten ready to apply for grants for certain things for that. And then also, we're on the M36 Rotary Club, and right now we're working on grants, and I'm a part of that committee for Most Improved Student, which is more like a scholarship for a student who might not necessarily get a scholarship. Like, their grades aren't usually the best. They're not going to go get a sports scholarship. They're not going to go get. So right now we're currently writing a grant for that as well. So I'm newer to grant writing, but I am in the process of doing that.
Have you won any, or you're just starting? You're
I'm
new,
just
you're just starting.
Yes.
It's fair
but
enough.
I'm learning a lot.
Right there with you.
Yes.
I guess Karen raised her hand, or Jeffrey, do you have grant?
Been a long time.
He's a scientist,
and,
sure, yes.
As a scientist, you probably don't have any interest in knowing anything about mouse liver specific immunohistocompatibility gene.
I do. We'll talk later.
There you go, but nonetheless, I mean, it's way in my past, and
Okay.
I've been in, like the NIH, you do grant writing, but at pharmaceutical industry, you don't do grant writing. You
Yeah.
save money for your CEO.
It's so true. I was in pharmaceuticals, I know, it's true.
Actually, I don't try to save their money.
Yeah, best to spend it. Karen, you had raised your hand.
Well, yeah, I would say, so first of all, I would say, we do not want to pursue grants until we really are on top of our general ledger and our budget process. And I think Michelle's been in the hot seat a little bit around the general ledger, but I think it's actually both the budget and the general ledger processes that are not fully functional right now. I think if we have the budget process in place, then each time a transaction happens, we're going to have somebody that says this transaction was authorized and it was authorized in this line. until we have that process in place, we should not be applying for grants, because we don't want to receive grants and then not steward them. We don't want to alienate funders. We don't want to make promises that we can't keep. But I think if I am the supervisor, we will clean up the budget and finance process, and that will happen very quickly. And then we can begin pursuing those other funding sources. And I do have several ideas about specific funding sources. One is to go back to that community. So back up again, I think one of the first things we need to do is revisit our strategic plan and see what we've accomplished, what we haven't accomplished, and set priorities for the next 18 months. Once we set those priorities, then we identify the funding sources that are available to support those priorities. Of course, my priority is roads. That grant that you and I went for, I know that it could support local roads infrastructure. It could even help us pave some of the roads if we do it on a collaborative basis with other municipalities. And I've already been in touch with several townships about that. But before we do that, we need to know that it's the wish of the board as a whole to make local roads the priority for that funding source, because there are other allowable uses for that funding source that are also in our strategic plan. And I have several other sources, grant funding sources that have started to pull threads for, but again, I will not support it until we get our budget and finance process in place. And have I succeeded in getting grants? Yes, it's part of what I do in my consulting business. That trail that I mentioned, I believe that was a $20 million project. Most of that was funded from grants. I have, LS&A had $300 million in grants that I oversaw, and I did, so I have extensive grant.
I have a follow-up question. Sorry. Do we use BSNA here for this? Okay. Yeah. Just checking.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I have a question. Can I ask? Was it, I went,
Yeah.
I didn't know how we were doing it because I
Oh, I
took a
thought we were just
bathroom
doing,
break, so-
oh, sorry.
Go in a row, or what is it?
we should
Oh,
just
okay, I didn't know,
open-
I'm sorry, I missed the process.
Janice hasn't had a chance to answer.
Okay, all right.
I agree with Karen, we need to get our budgeting process in line before we go after grants. I wholeheartedly support grants. This is money that is free and available, and we have many, many needs that we can use the money on. Right now, we're using the ARPA grant fund beautifully. I like the way we're spending that. I personally have not written a grant. I did take a class in grant writing. I believe that grant writing is a profession, and you should leave it to the professionals to write grants. The Land Preservation Committee has a consultant that is a professional in writing grants for land preservation, and I think this board should consider a consultant who is a professional in going after grants, because they're more successful in getting grants.
Good answer.
Is the question, should we be going after grants? Is that the question now?
My question was, does anybody have grant writing experience?
Yeah,
That was my,
yeah.
yeah.
But I just found out that was a great answer. That was a terrific answer. I agree. I don't know, I don't have Karen's experience here on the board and with the specifics of the township right now. I don't know what grants we need and what grants are available. But I absolutely agree. If you want to get a grant, you have to put your ducks in a row. You have to know what you want. You have to be clear about it. And then if you can bring in a professional, if you can afford to bring in somebody professional who really knows how to do it, your odds go up. And that's,
Sure.
I'm a consultant. People bring me in to help them in things so that they can get it done and they pay me to do it. And consultants are great. So there you go.
Thanks.
Thank you. You have a question?
Yeah, I do. So as I was taking notes, two of the candidates, not Janice or Karen, so raised the concern about not knowing, our ordinances and important information and pertinent information for the township. And this board is really focused on community engagement, and we have tried in many, many different ways since we've started to engage our community. And I guess my question is, obviously you guys see that as a problem. How would you propose to engage the community in ways that we haven't already?
Or do they even know we have? Like, are you even aware of what vehicles we've launched to engage the community to hear their feedback? They may not even, our success rate may not
I
be
have
where it is.
Info
I
at
was gonna say,
dextertownship.org.
I've seen the newsletter, and I've seen, like, especially the past couple of years for the land preservation, there was a lot of pull to the community to join, there was meetings in the community about it, there were different things, and I was not able to attend any of those. I really wanted to. I was actually invited by other farmers to come, but my mom's health wasn't the greatest last year, and it's the one reason that I don't work at Putnam Township anymore, because she was on her deathbed, and thankfully she's not anymore. So she's doing really well, and but I do know, I have seen at least that part of it in the newsletter, and so I think that that's great. And is there a Facebook page? I've seen posts about it on Facebook. So I don't know if other people were just posting it and reposting like the newsletter or whatever, but I did see some social media posts about it as well. But to answer your question, the one thing that has stood out to me, my oldest daughter was Explorer for Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department for 3 years. And one of the things I love about the Washtenaw County Sheriffs is they have a community engagement department, and that's what she was a part of. Excuse me. And Sheriff Clayton would invite the community in every so often. I think he did it monthly for a while. And he would ask the citizens and the police officers to sit at round tables together where they were all on the same level, and they would engage with questions, and the police officers would ask the citizens questions, and the citizens would ask them questions. And it really fostered an open dialogue with the community, where I feel like the community really trusts the sheriff's department in this area in Washtenaw County because of that community engagement program he had set up. And whereas, in our culture right now, a lot of people trust police officers. And so it was a genius idea on his part and on that department's part to open up that dialogue and just say, we're not going to hide behind anything. We want to get this out in the open and discuss it and see what are the barriers between us, because we need to work together for public safety. And as you mentioned earlier, that is my number one, if we got to that question, was public safety is my number one priority, and that's what our job is. And I think that community engagement helps with that safety, because once you get to know people and they get to know you, there's a trust that's built, and then you have less incidents of violence and different things. So.
Because we did host a coffee hour, and that was something that we've talked about as a board
Yes.
frequently.
That's Lonnie's.
Lonnie, yeah,
Nice.
Lonnie has done that, and Coffee with Lonnie, yeah.
It's
and
coffee with
hosting.
Lois.
So we have attempted to do that.
That's nice.
And Karen.
That's very-
Karen
and
was
I
there
think
as well.
that, I think consistency in those kind of things is key. You might only have a few people show up at first, but
Yeah.
just keep at it and keep doing it and keep putting it out there. Promotion is one of probably our biggest successes on our farm, but also maybe a little drawback because we got very popular very fast. And I do think promoting it and getting the word out there and engaging, making sure people have seen that there are opportunities to engage with the township.
So are you saying then that you would advise a community engagement department here or a committee that would?
Yes.
Okay.
In my answers, I put in there, I think a quarterly community engagement event would be great. I think different locations within the township, because it is kind of a big area, would be great. Something out this way, something in town, something on the west, something on the east, just to give people different locations to go to. Not everyone's going to come all the way out here to the township, although it's only 5 minutes for me. It's 20, 30 minutes for someone else if they get caught in traffic or whatever. So I think a quarterly, and the thing I have found in all my experiences between professional and volunteering, I volunteer a lot in my life, is if you give people a little bit of fun and a little bit of food, they will come, and then you can hit them with the education and whatever you're trying to portray as what the reason for the meeting. So,
Yeah, we have to make zoning ordinances fun to learn.
yes, let's make them fun.
And edible.
Yes, exactly. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, the question again was, what would we do to?
Yeah, I mean, because you said that there was a lot of things that you didn't know, and, there wasn't as much information pertaining to ordinances too. I know both of you would share that, there was ordinances and you need to learn about that, and how would you propose to engage a community to learn about the different ordinances in our community?
So, So getting involved takes a proactive person. Right? You're not passively shoved into it.
Correct.
Right? And I admit, until I applied for this job, I never went into the Dexter Township website to look at ordinances. Not that I couldn't have, and not that I didn't find them when I went there. So that's on me, right? That's not, and the issue you have here, when I served in Pittsfield Township, which was 30,000 plus at the time, and the only people that ever showed up to a township board meeting, and we had 2 every month, the only people that ever showed up was somebody who had a specific issue that they wanted to deal with.
Yep.
And for the most part, we had nobody, right? So you can't get people who don't want to be involved. And when I sat on committees, when I sat in volunteer work, I sat on the same committee, on different committees with the same people. It was always the same people, no matter where I went. Here in the watershed, the Washington Land Trust, Pittsfield Township, master planning, whatever it was always the same people. So it's really a limited number of people. But that's not your question, is what's going on, right? So I want you to know, I'm not concerned that I don't know the ordinances, because I can learn them.
No, yeah.
And I will. But, and I'll probably now be more engaged, because this was a pro-action on my part. But, I don't, I'm not a really great planner type. I'm not good at saying, hey, everybody coming over, I got cookies and pamphlets for you to read, right? But that's a great idea, right? That's, it's a nice idea. It's a way to try to engage community. So if you can find certain events, to engage the community, maybe the kids event like Halloween, try to make some community event out of it, or I don't know, maybe there already is, but I don't have any young kids anymore. But I guess that would be the only thing I could say. But, in general, people, they're not engaged until it's personal.
Yeah.
And that's not to say we shouldn't try to engage them, but it is to say that it's fair. When I was running for office, I was campaigning door to door, and I was handing out my little pamphlet, and on it, we had to choose a party. And when we did, we were on there, and I knocked on one guy's door, and he lived basically across the street from Township Hall, and across the street from an area where they were going to do a new development in a wetland area. And when I handed him my pamphlet, he looked at me and he said, I want to talk to you. And I said, why not? He goes, well, because your party affiliation, I don't agree with your abortion stance. And I looked at this gentleman, and I said, well, there's nothing on there about my abortion stance. How would you know? Well, I'm assuming based on your party. I said, well, let me tell you, I'm not here to talk to you about abortion, because abortion is never going to come up in front of the Pittsfield Township Board. It's not going to happen. We're not going to debate abortion. So my stance on abortion is irrelevant to this election. But what's important to this election is the road that you live near, how it's going to be impacted by the new development, and how the wetlands are going to be impacted and start flooding your basement after it goes through and so forth. And I said to this gentleman, I said, you really need to sit back and not think about Washington, D.C. or Lansing. You need to think about your own daily life. And you need to be involved in that and understand what's going on here. And the people that are right at that building, right across the street from you, they're going to impact it every day.
I have a question, actually, since he raises the question of party politics. Do we care, so Diane was a Democrat, do we care, should we be asking about the party affiliation of these candidates, and should we consider party affiliation as?
Nope.
I don't think it really matters, and
No.
for what we do.
That's what he's basically trying to tell us.
Yeah, it's a good question, but-
It was ridiculous that we had to pick a party affiliation, because it had nothing to do with party politics.
Right.
It all had to do with very specific issues affecting the people of the township that live there, right? And that crosses party politics, so.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
I just want to, it does matter to me. I'm not going to ask today, because I can do that research myself. But to me, it absolutely matters. The Dexter Township voters elected an entire new slate, I believe partially based on party. And in the last special election where I was elected, it is a partisan position. We run as a party. And that's just the way that the election goes. So these are not nonpartisan positions. There are nonpartisan townships nonpartisan positions across the state of Michigan. These positions are not them. So I do want to say, I'm not going to ask anyone here because I can do that research myself, but it is important to me as I make my decision.
But we did have one.
Do we have,
It wasn't a full slate. That was a turnover
yeah,
in the beginning. I just wanted to make that
we
clear.
took 6 out of 7.
Yeah, because there were only 6 that ran.
In 2020.
Sure.
That's fine. My point is that you do run.
Yeah.
I asked the question about if people were going to run in 2024. You do run with a partisan designation.
Yeah.
That will be necessary being a township.
I think my point is exactly this. Wow.
Yeah.
Why is somebody voting for a Democrat or Republican when the issues aren't partisan in nature?
Yeah, no, we understand, but Janice, did you have anything to say about the original question, which
Engagement.
I can't remember? Oh, community
What are we
engagement.
going to do with community engagement?
Forgot where we were.
Yeah, let's bookmark this. I know this board has struggled in getting the community engaged in the local governance of this township. I like the idea of the info at Dexter Township. That's great. We started out with a newsletter, and I was looking for the issue for spring, and it never happened.
I'm writing it right now.
So it'll be summer.
Yeah, no, it'll be it should go by the end of the month. I kind of wanted this thing done before we put out the next newsletter.
Okay, good.
Yeah, sorry.
Can I say something about community?
Yeah. Go ahead, Janice.
I thought long and hard about how to get community, I mean, I've lived here long enough, I know enough, many people. And I've looked at the 30 or so residential communities that we have here that make up the majority of our population in Dexter Township. I would like to see us go back to the old-fashioned block captain. Most of them have HOAs. Some of them have HOAs that are not being used or enforced right now. Work with them to get those back in force, and then have somebody in that community knocking on doors and saying, we have local governance and we need your help. Will you come to the meetings and voice your opinion? Yes, Karen?
Oh, I was just going to say, I've attended a couple HOA meetings here, like we've used Township Hall to host HOAs. And even in the HOAs, I give the In the Loop pitch, because In the Loop is our monthly newsletter, if nobody knows about it. Enroll on the bottom of the website, you can enroll. And even in person, when I'm sitting there in the HOA meetings, they don't enroll. Now, personally, it drives me nuts because I wanted 1,000 people on our In the Loop by a certain time, and I'm not making it.
I agree. There are people that don't want
They
to
just
be
don't, yeah,
involved.
they don't want to be involved.
They don't want another email.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
their neighbors talk to them about how important their interaction was
Yeah.
with the local government.
then it'll matter.
Then that might change their mind.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's just the nature of it, though. I mean, a lot of families live out here, they're busy, they're working, they're raising kids, they're going to school, they're doing a million things. I mean, of course, not everybody is going to know every ordinance. I certainly didn't when I took this
Here's
position.
the big test. We have 3 new people that kind of raise their hands. And no matter what the outcome of this is, will you stay active in one of the open committees? Will you be open to serve we have open committee spots. We only have 18 months left in our
Wave is looking
administration.
for
Wave is looking. I'm going to need a new sewer board person. I mean, there's just, Yeah.
The thing is, community engagement is a big effort. It's very time consuming.
Yeah.
That contract I was mentioning, the water treatment plant.
Yeah.
We are the community engagement consultant, and here I'm with a group, my firm. And it just takes a lot of time and effort, and we are a very small organization. I really like your idea, Regina and Janice. You're both talking about sort of you're talking about getting a committee going and expanding our resources. You're essentially talking about the same thing, is pulling in more people to help us with community engagement. As long as we try to do it all ourselves, it's always going to be.
It's hard.
Right.
Yeah.
It's always going to be limited. And we can hire community engagement consultants. A lot of planning firms do community engagement.
Karen, to answer your question, I do plan to be more involved no matter what. I've turned a
Cool.
corner the last few years on my involvement in local community events.
We need
politics,
people.
Whatever.
No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
My wife says I'll go anywhere where they serve cookies.
We don't usually do
We
that.
had really delicious donuts.
At our
Just ask
chat.
my kids because they ate almost a dozen donuts because we had a bunch left over.
We do a lot of lavender baking, just so you know.
Yeah, that was at our first.
Oh, there you go.
I have a quick question. I know, I hope this doesn't go off topic, but I'm just wondering, so it's, according to what Lonnie is saying, it's more about, not more about, but it does matter, your party affiliation.
Matters
To me,
Lonnie.
it does. It may not matter to everybody else, and it's not the top priority for me, but I didn't want it to, there was some talk that it didn't matter, and I just wanted to make sure publicly, it does matter to me.
But the decisions of the board are usually bipartisan, correct? Like you take an issue and you just.
Yeah.
When
Facts.
Absolutely. Regina, when you run,
Everybody on the board,
Is a Democrat.
everyone on the board is a Democrat, so we don't have a bipartisan board.
I mean,
But
6 of
shouldn't
us.
I really don't
decisions
think
be
that these,
bipartisan?
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think the issues that come across to us are necessarily Republican or Democrat or,
That's
you
what I'm
know.
wondering.
They're
Yeah,
not.
they're not.
Okay.
Except to the extent that the Republican Party favors smaller government and less action, and Democrats tend to favor larger government. More proactive government, and we have been more proactive than the prior board.
But the board is the representation of the citizens.
Right.
So if there's like a 60-40, 60% Democrat, 40% Republican, when you want the board to reflect that.
We're all elected
Well,
officials, it's however.
Exactly, but
The
I'm
vote
just saying.
goes.
I'd like to
It's
speak.
determined.
Yeah.
We're here to serve everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But this is the thing, when you go to even though the issues are nonpartisan, when you go to run, you have to choose a party.
Right, I understand.
So even
Yes.
those of us that are kind of independent or whatever,
Right.
we had to choose a party.
Right.
And that's why it comes down to party
Sure.
politics to
So
some
it's
degree.
the running, not necessarily
That's
For the
right.
slate.
the job of the board, but it's the running of. for the board.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
I
you
understand.
have to.
It's the electability.
And if people,
Sure.
people choose a straight ticket or something.
Yeah. It's our
Thank you, Laura.
electability.
I also just want to, because I feel like maybe it came out the wrong way for me.
get
It is, to Laura's point, you know, it is very important to me, I'll just say this as well. It is very important to me that we are selecting someone who intends to run in 2024. And I believe that we need that continuity. I'm new. There's been a lot of, you know, you've heard the rest of the board talk about the issues and the things that have gone on. I haven't been here for all of that. But to me, I think that this board has done really, really incredible things that have been often bogged down in like personal relationships and the messiness that Laura talked about. It's all been good.
Sure.
But it hasn't been clean. And so for me, the continuity is important. So the question that I asked about running in 2024, that's the reason that those two things are connected to me in my mind, that I want someone who is planning to run in 2024 because I believe we need that continuity on the board. And it also is important to me because I believe that I was elected because of the values that I have, because I ran on a pretty partisan platform myself. I don't think everyone did. We don't look at what we're talking about and say, is this a Democrat issue? Is this a Republican issue? That's not how the business part happens.
Sure.
But for me, it is about values, and I just wanted to be very clear and transparent in saying that as we're going through this process.
And we will say, through our drama of the last 30 months, I mean, there was a big learning curve, and we did it. You can't deny, we've had it. Look, come on. But somehow we kind of stay together, and we come through, and we push the topics forward. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know, if you've followed the board in the last 30 months, the kind of things that have happened. And I think it's a lot.
We've done.
I mean, for the drama we've had, we've accomplished a lot. And I think now we kind of know what we're doing, and now we're ready to really, like, jump off the cliff and really go. I don't want to say jump, it's not a cliff, let's jump up. Yeah, that's not a good analogy. Yeah. Bad analogy.
We need strong, now we need strong leadership.
Yeah.
So that we can just
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
We all kind of ran with topics that were important to us. And everybody's headed their kind of important topic, and we've run with it for the last 2 years. And that's kind of how it's happened in a way, I think.
Okay.
Any questions for us?
So the question is, now that you all have been through this 30-month of learning curve, are you going to run in 2024?
It's a darn good question, Janice.
Maris?
I think so. I don't know yet. It'll all depend.
Lonnie?
Yes.
I would like to see a strong supervisor come in
Yeah.
and step in.
I'm inclined to, and I want, but it has to do with leadership,
Mm-hmm.
really.
Yep,
Like I want
same.
a strong leader.
Strong, definitive.
That I feel like we can coalesce around.
And I will continue to advocate for very strong recycling.
That's one of the
Jeffrey
things
has a
about
question.
Dexter Township is the
I
recycling.
just want to tell you all, thank you so much for your time. I actually have to leave. I have
Okay.
7:45
please.
hard leave. I was there, but I can't tell you, I actually really enjoyed this. This was great.
It was a pleasure
I'm so
meeting you.
glad that you decided to have this type of a forum to do this. And I just want to say thank you. It was a pleasure to meet all of you. And as I said,
We'll see you again in some capacity.
I'm guessing you will. Actually, cookies Friday, so. Or donuts.
I bake cookies.
We could do cookies instead of donuts next time. Maybe we'll have better
So
turnout.
donuts are good too. But I do have to excuse myself.
Yeah.
I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you.
That's
No,
okay.
thank
No,
you for your time.
Thank you
Fair
for your
enough.
time.
We'll see how my time goes. We'll see what I want to learn, but I do have to say, you've definitely raised my interest to find out what's going on in the last 7 months.
Well, I appreciate you answering that, because that was the
Enrolled
last question I wanted to ask. How inclined are you now to begin attending Board of Trustees meetings? I started attending them back in 2015, I believe. So I'm just curious. Well, true, but to see a
Enroll and
familiar
interview.
face in the community every
thank
now
Thank
and
you
then.
so
very
much
much,
for your
sir.
time, especially on a Sunday after, a beautiful Sunday
I know.
afternoon. After all this rain, I know we're all just eager to get back in the yard.
Nice to meet you.
We should stop asking questions.
Absolutely. So,
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good night.
and I was just going to say, thank you, Regina, Jeffrey, Janice, and Karen for your interest in the vacant Dexter supervisor position, and we appreciate you taking the time to apply for the appointment and showing interest in serving your community, and we look forward to making our decision at our upcoming Board of Trustees meeting this coming May 16th.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment as well, Michelle? Sure. I just also want to echo that. I mean, I know we were just saying it to Jeffrey, but I'm very very thankful for everyone who puts themselves out there especially in a public forum and answers questions like this. This is not an easy thing to be on that side of the table, and I really appreciate everyone taking the time, and you're thoughtful. I think the other thing that I wanted to say is it was very clear that everyone put a lot of thought and effort into their answers, and have really looked hard at this since submitting their application. So really appreciative of that, and want to say thank you to everyone who put themselves out there for the position.
And especially, well, I just want to, yes, but I want to especially shout out to you, Regina, because you were the first, and we were all copying your answers. Sorry, Janice.
Yeah, the questions were really, really good questions, and I think we have to thank the staff. for putting them together.
Absolutely.
The board didn't put the questions together, the staff did, and they
Yeah.
did a beautiful job of it, so
Yeah.
we need to thank them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for all you guys do. I know I will be more involved now, no matter what. But I do appreciate what you've done so far and what the township has provided for everyone that lives in the township. It is an amazing place to live regardless, whether we all agree or not. But,
Absolutely.
so thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All righty, well, now we can continue to item number 7. Is there any call for second public comment? All righty, hearing none. Are there any?
Somebody get,
Oh.
oh, I thought he was getting up. Sorry, did you have a public comment? I thought I saw you getting up, yeah. Oh, okay.
All right, then I'll hurry then. Are there any?
I think Jim.
Oh, hello, Jim.
Are you folks going to publish the names and addresses of these candidates before you make the appointment?
Should we
I'm sorry,
publish the addresses?
Well, their names, I mean, it's not.
They are in our packet.
They're in the packet.
There was nothing on the website that had the names of the people we're going to be interviewing.
They're in the packet.
And
They're
they're
on the
also,
agenda.
and they're also on the agenda.
There's no packet.
On the website,
On the
there's a
website?
packet.
Yeah.
We looked and there was no names.
It's
Oh,
on
there
the
should be.
agenda. The names are listed on the agenda. Do you want a copy of the agenda?
So,
I wrote all over mine, I can't give them mine.
I'm looking to see. I think I have it here. I can copy.
is there anyone else for public comment? Okay, seeing none.
No, Pat?
Okay.
She was going to start saying something.
Are there any issues, comments, or concerns of board members and/or staff? Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to adjourn our meeting for this evening?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
FYI, I'm out of town all next week.
All righty,
Thank you, everyone.
meeting is adjourned.
We need to vote.
Oh, we need to
To
vote.
vote, so,
Say,
Oh.
All those in favor?
all of those in favor?
Aye.
All of those opposed?
Actually, I do want to say something. Michelle, thank you for leading this meeting
Yeah, I
tonight
will
on
say that
such
too.
short notice. Like,
Yeah.
I feel